Tulsa King Season 3's 8th episode opens with Dwight regaining his liquor license. Dunmire is in a risky situation now that the company is operating again, especially because he will be released from prison the next day. Cole and Jeremiah discover Dexter Deacon, the watchmaker, waiting for them when they return home. He acknowledges that Dwight sent him to kill them. But for him, trust is the most valuable thing, and he doesn't have faith in Dwight. He wants to collaborate with Dunmire since he is aware of the man's hidden agenda. Killing Dwight and those closest to him is the primary objective. Deacon arrives while preparations are underway for a Cal Thresher fundraising rally at the Delmore Grand Hotel. He plants a bomb, but no one seems to notice. He then arranges a meeting with Dwight, who modifies the meeting location. When Musso arrives, Dwight dives right into brass tacks. He criticizes Musso for using Bevilaqua to make it appear as though Dwight created this. He wants a way out of this problem and for him to be released right away. Sadly, Musso declines since he is not in the mood to negotiate. Musso briefly explains why this is so important to him as they drive together. Although Deacon is a legitimate target and dangerous, the agency views him as old business and not one of their top priorities. However, this is personal to Musso, and he wants to give him quick justice. Musso wants retribution after one of his bombs murdered his buddy. When they finally arrive at the meeting place, Musso makes Dwight wear a wire before entering. But Dwight purposefully dumps it outside the door, and with backup a quarter of a mile away, it all boils down to this. Dwight arrives with the money to visit Deacon. Instead, he pulls out a revolver. Fortunately, Dwight's guys show up and reverse the situation. They carry Deacon out the back and drive to the cemetery, where they decide to torture him in order to get information, while Musso is sitting duck. However, this is personal to Musso, and he wants to give him quick justice. Musso wants retribution after one of his bombs murdered his buddy. When they finally arrive at the meeting place, Musso makes Dwight wear a wire before entering. But Dwight purposefully dumps it outside the door, and with backup a quarter of a mile away, it all boils down to this. Dwight arrives with the money to visit Deacon. Instead, he pulls out a revolver. Fortunately, Dwight's guys show up and reverse the situation. They carry Deacon out the back and drive to the cemetery, where they decide to torture him in order to get information, while Musso is sitting duck. Margaret is someone that Cal Thresher wishes to include in his administration. He refers to Marg as a mafia moll because he is aware of her involvement in all of this. Additionally, he quickly reminds her that neither of them is impervious, even though Dwight is. Now that Deacon is temporarily out of commission, Jeremiah is prepared to get even. Did Deacon meets Jeremiah? Because of Dwight's newly formed bond with Sackrider, the restriction on Montague distilleries is lifted in Tulsa King Season 3 Episode 8. As they get back to work, Dwight says that he will have to call up the National Guard if Jeremiah tries to assault them once more. In relation to Jeremiah, Cole bails him out of jail and brings him home. I believe Jeremiah would spend some time behind bars for assaulting an attorney general after viewing last week's show. Because Jeremiah was constantly moaning about Cole's emotional torture of him, I assumed Cole wouldn't save him. Still, here we are. What was the purpose of the entire diversion? Was that to demonstrate, you can attack an attorney general in Tulsa and get away with it? So I suppose. Returning to the storyline, Deacon also appears at the Dunmire's estate shortly after they do. Dwight hired Deacon to kill Jeremiah, but it appears that Deacon deceived Dwight, even after receiving payment, because he didn't think Dwight was sufficiently trustworthy. Since Dwight is hanging around with Deacon because Musso has instructed him to do so, he has realized that Dwight has some ulterior motivations and hasn't hired him merely to kill Jeremiah. Deacon worries that Dwight will abandon him to the wolves once he kills Jeremiah. Deacon has chosen to collaborate with Jeremiah because of this. He also plans to murder Dwight in order to appease Jeremiah. Jeremiah orders Cole to leave so that the adults can talk. Shortly after, Deacon installs a bomb after sneaking into the hotel through the back door, which is accessible to employees bringing in supplies and decorations. Deacon also slips out of there without being noticed because no one is keeping an eye on that path. What was the intended subject of this conversation? Dwight was supposed to pay Deacon an additional $250,000 once he finished building the bomb, but he had already stolen $250,000 to begin the process. However, Dwight declines his offer and declares that they will meet at the place of his choosing. Dwight phones Musso after hanging up on Deacon and informs him that the bomber has chosen a location for their meeting. In an attempt to outdo Dwight, Musso claims that he cannot select a place until he has prepared a squad capable of apprehending Deacon during the exchange, because he wants everything to run as smoothly as possible. As feasible. Dwight tells him that it will, but only if he gets his way. This is what I find puzzling. Due of his personal grudge against Deacon, Musso claimed that the entire Deacon hunt is off the books. How is he going to organize a squad, then? Won't that require some sort of documentation or authorization from superiors? The fact that Musso can act any way he pleases when the plot requires it and must adhere to procedure when it does not is, in my opinion, really handy. The audience is genuinely kept on the edge of their